In this episode of Fractional Frequency, we are super fired up to chat with Myles Harrison, founder and principal of PractiKai, an AI consultancy that is focused on real-world adoption. And so we'll find out the story behind PractiKai and get into what actually works as people are navigating this new age of technology. We'll talk about where you should start, what needs to be true first, and how to build a human and AI workflow that delivers real impact. Welcome, Myles.
Thanks. Great to be here.
Awesome. So tell us, what does PractiKai mean? And tell us a little bit about how you got started.
Yeah, certainly. So it's not PracticAI, which some people think it is. PractiKai is a Greek word that means practicality or putting things into practice. So it's similar in the root to like the English word practicum that people do in school. And I really adopted this just because, as I'm sure probably aware, and most listeners are aware, if you read the news, there's a lot of hype and confusion around AI right now. We're still very much in the hype cycle, definitely for agentic AI, as they call it. And so, I joke that my team were kind of like AI hipsters. We were doing AI before it was cool. It's hard sometimes for me to convince people that we are data scientists and that we were doing AI before it was the new AI. But we see the work that we do driven by pragmatism and practicality and, kind of an antidote to a lot of the hype and confusion that's going around. And I'm sure we'll talk about that more. And then in terms of how I got started, I have a background in the Big Five, kind of a career consultant. I started in the agency world at Publicis in digital analytics, and I was kind of lucky enough to ride a different hype cycle of big data into AI and machine learning. And then I also worked in analytics at PricewaterhouseCoopers, PwC, and at Accenture. And then I briefly took some time away from that to teach that as well. But really, I started freelancing because I've reached a point in my career where I felt that I know the consulting world well enough that it's something I can set out and do on my own. And it's also something I want to do differently because I've seen the good parts and the bad parts of the world of consulting. And so a lot of what we're trying to do with my team is set ourselves apart from that. And that was really the motivation for me setting out and surprisingly finding myself being an entrepreneur, although the past me would probably never thought this is something I would do.
That's awesome.
It's interesting. We were talking earlier, you've worked across so many different industries in your consulting practice, manufacturing, transportation, retail, and tell us a little bit about the themes that you see across those sectors. What would you say is maybe the most common or most expensive mistake that's happening in organizations or across organizations trying to integrate AI right now?
Yeah, well, the most expensive mistake in trying to integrate AI across a lot of these disciplines, and I like to say to folks that don't know PractiKai, you can tell these are very important disciplines because they are the least sexy disciplines that work with real objects in the physical world. Things like supply chain and trade and things like that. We do a lot of work in manufacturing, but that typically means that they're also not very good at technology, and so they're the folks we can work with and help. I guess the worst mistake would be it's difficult to know if you don't know about a domain and someone starts talking to you. It's difficult to know whether to believe them, right? And whether they actually are offering you what they're claiming. And this is something I have an issue with in the world of sales and business. And I think one of the ways that we try to differentiate ourselves is one of the other core values we have is clarity. And I spent a lot of time teaching, and I believe that if you can't explain something very technical to someone that is not technical and have them understand it, then you don't really understand what you're doing, right? And that should be part of the sales process and helping businesses solve problems as well. But assuming that you don't, buy a bridge that someone is trying to sell you, I think the number one mistake that a lot of organizations make is getting ahead of themselves. And I'm guilty of this too, because I'm pretty impatient. But you cannot make a house, without bricks, and you cannot do the AI without data, right? And most organizations, I don't believe all this stuff that says that like white collar work and programming and all this is going to go away and be replaced by AI, because there's so much complexity and technical debt, and the world is so complex that most organizations, they need to walk before they can run, and they need to step back and take a good look at what they have to understand what their real business problems are first, and whether their house is in kind of disarray or complete disarray, before they start trying to do AI. Because data is the raw material that machine learning uses, and if you don't have, it's garbage in, garbage out. If you don't have the right material, you can't build. So it's not the sexiest sales pitch, as I say to people, but sometimes I talk to potential clients and they say we want to do AI, and they're very excited. And it's not exactly the most salesy thing to be a little bit of a wet blanket and say, okay, I know you're excited, but like, what are you trying to do? And like, who told you this word? And what makes you think that it's what you need right now? And then if you talk to them, like you start to learn that it's like, okay, they know that AI can do these things and they want that done, but in some cases they're not ready for that. So it's like, we need to get your data in order first, or there may be a simpler way to do what they're trying to do that it's not really an AI problem, right? But I think it's like, it's not fun work, but you have to kind of eat your vegetables. I mean, I personally don't, but you have to eat your vegetables, and you have to kind of get your house in order in terms of data and data quality and having all the information and being ready to do that before you go about doing it. So.
Makes a lot of sense, having to lay some foundations and do the grunt work before you can do the really sexy, exciting part of things. And when we first spoke, Myles, you were talking a little bit about the market of consultants or experts interacting with prospective partners or clients like these. And we wrote down what you said because it really stuck with us. And that was, they stole our watch, told us the time, and then charged us $45,000 for the privilege. So tell us a little bit about, what does that refer to in the context of organizations seeking consulting advice?
Yeah. So, I mean, $45,000 if you're lucky, right? Time is expensive, and people's time is money. But I mean, I didn't come up with that saying. That's an old saying about management consultants, right? Steal your watch and tell you the time. The one of the kind of anti-heroes of consulting, I think it's Marty Kinn, wrote that book called House of Lies about the business of management consulting and his issues with it. And I had similar challenges. I think they made it into a show on HBO with Don Cheadle. But yeah, I mean, the problem is that, and I think it can be good and it can be bad, but I feel that because of people that do consulting badly and position it badly, that management consulting, whether it be in data and AI, or whether it be in strategy, or whether it be in marketing or any discipline, has a bad name. Because you're an outsider, and then there's issues of trust, and then people will come in and they say they'll deliver one thing, and then they'll deliver something else. Or they'll come in and you're an outsider. You always have to do discovery work. We still have to do discovery because every client is different. As I like to politely and positively say, every business is different. They're all uniquely messed up in different ways. So you do have to go up, you do have to go in and do some discovery. But I think the problem is that why people get this feeling is hindsight is 2020, right? Like consultants come in, they say, we want to help, we're going to fix these problems, but in order to fix the problems, we need to do some detective work and understand what the problems are. And then the temptation, especially for clients that I would say don't do really good work, that's all they'll do. And they'll say, here's your 128-page deck that's really expensive. And the president of the company, especially if it's not a big enterprise, if it's somebody like some of our clients who, wear a plaid shirt, built business in their garage and have run it for 25 years as the president of the company, they're just like, you told me stuff I already knew, and then you just charge me for it, right? I think about that a lot because I try to have empathy and put myself in my client's position. And it's difficult for me because I have to say, look, we have to come in and talk to your people and take their time, and our time is expensive too. But there should always be something after the discovery part, which actually is the execution. And even if our clients say, hey, we don't have the budget, or you did the discovery and things have changed, like I talk to my team and push them very, very hard. And I say, like, this is not an exercise of just gathering information and repeating it back to them. It's like you need to look at what is there, tell them something they don't know, and then also tell them something. And this word is misused so much that it's become a cliche, but I mean it this time. And tell them something that is actionable, right? Like not just like, hey, this is the state of your business, and this is things that are broken. The CEO is going to be like, I'm well aware. I fight these fires every day. You want to say, this is the state of your business. This is broken. This is our perspective. And this is what we think you should do. And this is how you should do it. And we will help you if you want our help. And if you don't, this is how your team would do it. We partner with a couple companies, a couple other small startups very closely. And I guess I'll embarrass him because he's not here, but Ryan had this thing he said on a call to me that might be bad sales, but I believe it very much so as well. He said to a client on a call, he said, look, I want to work with you and get you to a point where you don't need us anymore, but where you want to work with us, because we have fixed your problems to the point and like upskilled your team to the point that you are self-sufficient, but we provide enough value that you want to keep working with us because you see the value, right? As opposed to, I'm going to go in, do some work,
drag it out so that I can invoice you more and more with
rack up the billable hours, and then be like, okay, the client's happy, the project is done, we didn't get sued, ride off into the sunset in your boat or whatever.
I had the same. Sorry, Erin. Just real quick, I had that same feeling when we set up our firm. Is that I'd seen it so many times. The big firms coming in charging not $45,000, that's for sure, and just coming in and providing a million decks and no way to move forward. And I was like, people can't like that. People can't be like, yeah, this is the way forward. But I saw them making that same choice over and over again. Like, really, they want impact. They want action. They want solutions. They want somebody to go in and like roll up their sleeves and figure out what's really going on under the hood. And I think I definitely feel like people know the value now because everything has changed. But there was crazy money flying out of big companies or any company to get to no result. I was just amazed how that industry like stood up for so long, because seeing it, and of course you feel 10 times worse if you're in the company, because they would suggest things that you might have suggested 6 months ago, but because the consultant said it, then it's something that we might do. You're just like,
yeah, no, I've heard that before as well, right?
Yeah.
There's something I want to pick your brain about. Myles, and that is, aside from the walk before you run concept and companies getting over their skis around AI in general, what is your perspective, or what are some of your observations around how companies are addressing their people with respect to AI, so their employee population? What is the industry getting wrong there?
Yeah, I have an opinion on this, and I have observations, um, and I'll just say that it's my opinion, what I've seen, and our perspective from my company. Uh, so it will depend on, I guess, your management style, and whether or not you've read The Prince, and whether or not you believe it's better to be feared than loved, or not. Um, but people is your business, so this would be of interest to you. But I see, and this has been well published in a lot of newspapers. There's so much momentum around AI and so much focus on it that you see organizations, uh, I would say, taking more of a stick approach than a carrot approach to AI. Things like tech companies saying, you must use AI, and we will, obviously we can track that, and then that's somehow tied to your performance review or something, right? Um, or saying, I was literally just talking about this with someone. There's this, you consume different parts of language, and your metered utility that you're using with these AI companies is tokens, right? And so there are these companies, and they have this whole thing called like token maxing, where it's like how many tokens, who is burning the most tokens, billions of tokens. And it's a total quantity over quality thing. Because just like in the old days, as somebody was saying to me, it used to be like, how many lines of code did you write? It's like, and there was a time, I remember watching this documentary, my computer science course, about how they used to pay programmers by the line of code, right? Which, when you think about it, is really illogical, because that means if you code a very inefficient solution, you get paid more, right? So we're seeing that kind of thing now, where people are getting lost in this quantity over quality. And I am a big believer in like both the carrot approach for all kinds of things in organizations. Like, we're all on your employees should be all on the same team, right? So you should be going, like, someone used this term, I don't know if this is common in your domain, but about, like, they use it as a cliche as well, but people that actually do it, this idea of servile leadership, where the purpose of a leader is to serve their employees, right? They should be the one, right? And I've met people in positions of leadership in government too, and they go to a forum, and you think they're going to ask some questions, and they said to me, yeah, I'm here to take marching orders, right? Because I'm in charge and I have to make changes. And I think that should be on the leaders to take the carrot approach and say, look, everybody has challenges in their job. Everybody has parts of their jobs they don't like. If you can use AI to be more effective, and it's a useful tool, and it can make your life easier, here it is. Oh, I don't believe you. I'm anti-AI. I'm too busy already. Okay, we're going to do training. Let me help me understand the parts of your job that suck. And these are the things AI can do. And don't dictate to your people, hey, here's this new tool, you must use it, right?
Yeah.
Show your people how the things that are wrong with the tool and the things that are good about the tool, and say, this is how we are going to empower you, right? Or your work is not going to be, it's not going to make everything all better, and work will be different, but it is a lot, you can do a lot now much, much, much faster than you ever could. And I think some people don't know that. And I think telling people, hey, here's this thing, use it, it's not empowering them. You need to take the time or spend the money or both to incentivize people and show them that it is something that they choose. And then if it's not, then, don't give them a bad performance review just because they don't use a certain tool, right?
I know. The measuring
Makes
of
sense.
usage is just crazy to me. I I think it's exposing some leadership gaps when this conversation happens because everyone's saying that they're implementing AI or, I'm getting up to speed with AI. But if you try and like click into that, it's pretty easy to see the people who have like no idea like what the direction is that they want to go down. Whereas if you can have a conversation with a leader and say, do you know where your team is spending the most time? Or do you like what parts of the process are really challenging for your team that sometimes can cause a bottleneck in the process? If they're able to have like those conversations, then that's a better start than just we're going to implement it because someone said we should. It's like we're going to create some efficiencies so that we can handle when work volumes go up um, more effectively than if we just say, well, everyone's in the office till 9 o'clock tonight. We can manage the wave a little bit better. So I do think it's from a people perspective, it's definitely exposing some vulnerabilities in leadership, and I'm not sure if there's much room anymore for leaders who that's their whole personality is just I'm in charge and you're here to follow my orders because there's accountability at every level now and there's output expectations, um, and you need to be comfortable and competent in discussing what your team is doing to enable you to get them to the next level. And if you've just kind of sat back because you're in charge for the last 5 years, I think that person is going to struggle. But that's just my opinion again. So now something interesting that also came up when we talked last was you bill in USD, but your currency is trust. Why is trust so important for you and your business?
Yeah. So trust is, I just gave a presentation about this to a class of students about the business of consulting. And now that I'm in a position of leadership, I mean, I still think of myself as a data scientist. I'm a technical person, but I'm coming to terms with the fact that in a human way, your job when you are in a position of leadership is to sell because you have to feed your people and you have to ensure that there is like a pipeline of that there's business to make the machine of the business turn. So why is trust important in our business? I spent a couple years as a new entrepreneur getting a lot of very, very bad advice from very, very well-meaning people. And I'm trying to be positive and saying they're trying to help, but they're telling you what they know, right? And it wasn't until I spoke to, I got all this advice. It's like, oh, do marketing and this type of social media and like have this type of lead magnet and all this nonsense. And it
Did
wasn't
you ever
until,
do a dance to a Taylor Swift song for TikTok? Did you ever do that?
as far as this interview is concerned, no.
Sorry, fun.
I knew I should have. I had a call with my lawyer before this podcast. I knew I should have. I couldn't get in touch with him. I knew I should have had that conversation.
Run a few
Yeah.
places by them.
There's always a tricky question in there, right? There's always some tough questions about the TikTok and stuff like that. Yeah. No, I mean, I think certain types of business, and the simplest example I say to people now is think about the difference between a B2C company or even a D2C company, direct to consumer, that makes a product that has a low price point, right? I like to drink Coca-Cola. I don't need to know who made that Coca-Cola or who the CEO of Coca-Cola is. to go into a store, be like, hey, I'm thirsty, I want something sugary. Oh, a can of Coke, right? Because it's a low price point, it's a commodity, right? But for us, like a lot of consulting firms say this, some live it, some don't, but I firmly believe, and sometimes it's hard to actually get clients to understand how fully I believe this, that we are essentially working side by side with our clients. And it's not just like, hey, we're a vendor, that person's a customer. It's like they're a partner. We are helping them solve a problem together. And maybe we'll stick around in the long term. Maybe we'll have a long-term relationship, and that's the ideal. And maybe we won't. But you are working side by side with that person. And so they need to trust you, right? Because regardless of everything else and things that some people say, like people want to work with people that they know and trust and like, or that someone that they know and trust and like knows and trusts and likes, right? And this is the same when you're looking for a full-time job. And then also just the nature of the price point of the work, like time is money, you know, projects that you deliver in consulting take a lot of people and a lot of time, and so they're very expensive. And until you have kind of a body of like social proof and a brand behind it, which I also have thoughts about, just because you've done a bunch of other things and communicated them in a marketing way, does that mean someone should trust you? I don't know. But if someone is going to come to me and say, Myles, I want your team to deliver this project, and I'm going to say, hey, that's going to be $500,000, they better be very confident that I mean what I say, and I'm going to deliver what I say I'm going to deliver, and that they can trust me. And so, like, it's not negotiable, and it is the most important thing. And especially when companies are small, someone else told me, as uncomfortable with it as I am, when companies are small, the founder, just like the lead singer of a band, right, is essentially the brand, right? And they're the person that the clients in leadership have the most face time with. And then as the company scales, it starts to develop its own kind of abstract brand and culture. But that trust in the leadership team and in management is still important.
Yeah, that makes sense. So just to go back to a little bit of practical use cases, a lot of my clients are very excited about building agentic AI engineers is the new job title that's going around. So what's the practical use case for agentic AI in business? Where have you seen it work really well?
Yeah, I think most people know that the strongest uh, the strongest use of agentic AI right now is actually in software engineering. So people that work in AI and software engineering, if you ask some people, they say, "Oh, we've built the tools that are going to replace us," right? But I mean, I don't know if that's true. But yeah, it definitely something that generative language models and that agentic AI is really good at is writing code and developing software and building, things. And before, this is an important distinction I want to make on this podcast. People will use words without defining them. And so you will talk to someone and they'll say, what do you think about agentic AI? And you'll start having like a bar room type conversation. And you'll get about half an hour in and people will have opinions. And if there's certain types of engineers and technical people, CTOs, the conversation will get heated. And then you realize that their definition of agentic AI is not the same. So it's like, you're not talking about the same thing. That's why you're disagreeing, right? So there's very, very complex definitions of agentic AI. There's all kinds of schematics on LinkedIn that are also generated by AI of that concept. To me, agentic AI is just a language model that can use tools. That is my definition, right? If you have a chat model, it's just generating responses. If it can use a tool, search, a Python interpreter, a plugin, an MCP skill through Claude, Canva, whatever, Kayak, that's a tool. So it's agentic.
Yeah.
But the strongest use
Yeah.
case um, is by far just doing software engineering. And even my team, I mean, I am very transparent about the fact that, my team, we are data scientists first, but we are able to build amazing product that we definitely couldn't build in the past, just in terms of front end development, in terms of platform development, because you have agentic coding, and even below agentic coding, you have AI assisted coding, right? I don't think I'm being negative enough on this podcast. So,
I
so
don't think that's true. I think the honesty is good because I just had like 5 questions pop up like as you were saying that. Yes, I agree. Defining what people are saying, I think is so important because that is where misunderstandings happen. And then if you don't know where you're both coming from, like that can cause confusion. And yeah, I did a little, back in the day I did a little research myself, like the difference, and like the simplest way to explain it was, yes, it's you become it becomes agentic when it takes the idea and does something about it. Like
yeah, taking
it's
action.
doing.
But
Yeah.
you will hear people, some people, they will casually use the word agent to just mean a chatbot. And they're using these words interchangeably, and it leads to a lot of confusion, and that's part of what I think is a lot around the hype. There's an article, I think they had examples historically, but they said if you have a term that should have a technical definition that you can look up in the dictionary, but it doesn't have a hard and fast definition that everyone agrees upon, that's a sign that you're in a period of inflated hype, because it's still ambiguous, and that's part of the problem. But when I said I wanted to be more negative, I wanted to talk about what I think is a very bad use case, is what I wanted to
Oh yeah.
say. So all of you
Good.
startups out there, fight me. Stop doing this. I know there's money to be made, but I hate you all. Nobody wants to talk to a voice AI agent as a customer service cold caller. People already don't like, they do not. They don't,
No.
right? Like, and I have talked to probably 50 startup founders, and they have the same thing, and they say, yeah, we're going to do a voice CSR, and they're talking about KPIs, and they say, yeah, it's automated. So we got this AI cold caller to call 75,000 people in this short time, and I'm like looking at the guy and be like, that's not a good thing. Like that is another example of quantity over quality. And I had another conversation about this, and the founder said to me, he said, yeah, the models are so amazing. The people don't even know they're talking to a voice AI. They're not even aware. And I had to do a double take. I said, your system does not identify that it is an AI. It doesn't tell. So I said, you're deceiving the customer as part of your startup, right? These are the sorts of things that I think they're part of people realizing, oh, there's a lot of money to be made here, and there's a lot of hype and a lot of spin, but there's very real human factors at play that have nothing to do with tech, AI, data, machine learning, that have everything to do with human psychology, human bias, and emotion, and user experience in a way too, that these companies don't take into account before they start going down this path. They're putting the cart before the horse. They say, oh, we have voice AI, we can do this, we can automate. It's like, do people want to talk to an AI voice agent? Are you legally allowed to make a robocall that literally is a robot voice? Is that something that is allowed legally? What are the ramifications of that?
5,000 calls.
Pardon?
75,000. I was just repeating how many calls that robot was able to do, and it's like that's why I'm getting all those calls all the time, Erin. It's one of the
I was gonna say, I think I'm on their list. Seems
I don't
familiar.
know.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm, for
agree.
someone that should work in this business, maybe I'm too bearish about it. there are situations where I do want to chat with an AI where I know I am, and there are situations where I've been forced into that, like with a certain brand I interacted with, and then they have this dark pattern that just funnels you into their chatbot, and then my response is just like over and over again, I would like to talk to a human being.
They won't let
Right?
you.
Yeah.
They won't let you.
So,
Won't let you. You're stuck. You're stuck in the cycle of doom. Yeah. I mean, no one's being fooled by the fake typing in the background either. Like, give me your name. Like, no, it's no one's being fooled. I don't mind. I won't say the name. Actually, I don't know that it matters, but I won't. But I don't mind the type of chatbot that like doesn't want to deal with you, so just will like give you a refund out the gate. Like it's been programmed to be like, I don't care. Like you don't want this item anymore. That's fine.
so
Drop
you
it
want to
off. Don't talk.
you want a low resist you want a lazy chatbot.
I'm a lazy chatbot that's not going to fight me on what I want. It's going to be like, yeah, you don't need to box it, you don't need to label it, do nothing, just drop it off. Money's going to be in your account in 2 hours. That's the chatbot I like.
Yeah,
When
I
I'm
mean
trying to
it's
deal with a complex medical question, no.
yeah, no, it that there's very I think just like the distribution of value to be realized from different kinds of specific use cases that may span many different verticals are unevenly distributed. I think that the value to be realized from generative AI and agents and agentic AI and all this are also very unevenly distributed across verticals, right? And I was talking about this with someone today as well. We see a huge uptick in usage transforming the business of software development, right? Like Anthropic themselves, they released this chart. They say, what do people, they took a big survey. It's great stuff. They say, what are you actually using, Claude for? And it's like 60% of people say software development, right? But then we see other disciplines where I'm sure it could do an okay job, but because of the cultural aspects and the nature of the work, it is very difficult to realize value and safely use AI in those contexts. I'm talking about the world of law. Law is the raw material of law is language, and the difference between a comma or a single word in a legal document can make a lot of difference in a court of law. And then also it's an industry where people are it's very wasteful for the environment, very, very used to working on paper, the like stereotype of lawyers with like bankers boxes full of paper.
Yeah.
And so we don't see that adoption in these types of industries, heavily regulated industries where, oh, it's just a little hallucination. It's like that hallucination could be disastrous.
Millions of dollars gone.
Yeah, from a legal standpoint. Whereas in more, in software, you just kind of test and learn. You build something, an MVP, it doesn't work, you throw it away, right? So I think that's why we see more adoption of it in, agentic coding and things like that, and less of it in heavily regulated fields and industry verticals. And that's not a surprising fact. I'm sure other people have made this observation.
Just wonder how far we're going to go compromising like human experience, because if they're building, if you're automating like building the product, and I know somebody's looking at it afterwards to make sure that there is some quality control, but if you've got the product that you're using being built by AI, and then you have a problem and you call and you speak to an AI, like agent or chatbot basically, and then you can't get through to a real person because they've got their automated system and that's the process. Like, won't people just stop buying your stuff if the experience is not good for them? Is anybody worried about that when you speak to them as clients, that they want to make sure that people actually still value the product?
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely a very real concern uh, amongst our clients and everyone I talk to be quite frank,
Okay.
about maintaining this. This is going to sound very grandiose, but you know what I mean. Maintaining our humanity in the age of automation and AI, right?
Yes,
So not
yes.
having the human factor go away. And some people that do software development are, I think, less concerned. I think the sad fact is that I see it as a kind of really awful arms race where some businesses that do these practices, they have so much data that they're trying to optimize to find out, okay, how much will people actually put up with and how much can we schlep off to them and they'll still buy, right? And there's actually a really good article I just read where it talks about how certain types of roles and certain things companies do from an economic standpoint, they're negatively incentivized, and their purpose is to do the opposite. So there's a thing called like sludge, and ostensibly when you call customer support at some businesses, their job is to help you. But in reality, from an economic standpoint, that is a form of kind of gatekeeping. And if they put you on hold long enough, you'll eventually give up,
You'll go away.
and then you'll go away, and they don't have to deal with your problem, and they don't have to pay a person to be on the phone, right? So there's a balance there. But I think I am cautiously optimistic about people and about critical thinking and about empathy and a lot of these things. And I think that if anything, because there's so much being generated by AI, people will start to value that isn't more, and things like authenticity and the human factor and the human touch are going to become more important. And I've seen silly examples. This is more of a socioeconomic discussion we're having, but I've seen examples of this that are funny. Like people are starting to talk about, there are really anti-AI people that are kind of radical, and I don't agree with that either. I think AI is just a useful tool and an amazing technology. But I've seen people talk about things where they want to have, just like with organic food, they would like to start having like a seal that says like 100% AI free, right? So that you will use their business or buy their product, right? And in all seriousness, some gaming companies, I follow this in the news as well. There are game studios, independent game studios, and they have pretty rigid standards about not using AI coding even, or AI content creation for artistic assets. I believe the Linux kernel even, I think even though Linus Torvalds is a big user of AI, they have a policy about not submitting AI generated code just because there's the human oversight element, which is what they're more concerned with. Right? So I don't know. I'm cautiously optimistic that we will find a balance, and I hope that as the air slowly is let out of the balloon, not a bubble popping, that we will find a happy medium. And I believe that in this kind of invisible hand of what the market being made up of people actually want, and companies, including a very well-known company that we work with all their technology, have probably pushed a little too hard on a lot of the AI things, and you're starting to see people push back a little. And I think we're going to find where the value actually is. The market will let the corporations know, hey, this is what you can get away with, and this is not useful, and I don't care, and this is. And I'm cautiously optimistic.
I love that.
I can't with the AI free sticker. It's giving, have you ever been in the grocery store and you're in the meat department and you've seen like a gluten-free sticker on the meat? It's like, well, yes, right?
Why would there be gluten in it? Yeah.
That sort of
I don't know. In America,
Right,
they put all
and then-
sorts in everything.
This is
never
true.
know.
This is true. But yeah, no, it's wild. All of the sort of ripple effects of these conversations and decision points. But we've got a few rapid fire questions to close out our
Great.
conversation, Myles, and I'm gonna I'm going to kick off with one about leadership. What is one practical leadership tip for responsible AI adoption?
Yeah, so we talked already about the carrot and stick approach. So uh, I think that in itself is kind of an important point to note. And then in addition to that, I will say that I also just was reading a funny article about um, people in positions of leadership relying on AI too much. Um, so maybe I can put this as succinctly as I can. Whether you're a business leader or whether you are the most junior intern in the company, don't be lazy. Okay. Like there is this term that people use about over reliance on AI adoption for themselves. AI, sorry, not AI adoption yet, called cognitive offloading, where you just say, I don't have time to worry about this. I don't have time to think about it. I'm just going to ask ChatGPT, copy and paste it, right? So when I hear stuff like Mark Zuckerberg, who is the world's most wealthy android, saying things like he is going to make an AI avatar of himself to replace himself in meetings. I mean, for him it'll be easier, right? Because it's like there's not a lot of emoting happening there, right? I mean, maybe he already has replaced himself with maybe that is a clone, an AI clone of him. But when you hear people like leaders saying, "Oh, I can automate away my job, and we can adopt AI in the org, and it can just run like a machine that's 100% automated," like that's not good leadership, and that's not good AI adoption. Your job is to care about your people and guide them and help them and solve the problems for them. It's not something that is just like done perfunctorily that you offload and automate, right? So you should be automating the menial stuff. Like people are, even at the lower level, not in leadership, when they talk about AI adoption, like I met a guy at an event, he's in finance, and he comes up to me, he's like, "Oh, you do AI?" And he says, "I'm so excited, I want to like automate away my a lot of my team." And I just said, like, "I'm done talking to you. Like, you're not my customer, right? Like get out of here, right?" Like that's thinking about it the wrong way. The point of AI is not to take anyone's job. The point of adopting AI is not to do a 6% layoff afterward. It is to free up people's time and make them more efficient so they can focus on more meaningful work. So you still need to do the work. You can't be lazy. And especially for people in leadership, your job is to be a leader and have people trust you and guide them. It's not something you can offload to a language model. No, just
Shouldn't. It shouldn't. And there's so much opportunity now for people who have great ideas and who can use all that experience that we have to actually sit back and have time to think. Like that should be the goal. Let's have time to think about how things could be better, and we have tools to help us get there. I mean, ultimately, will jobs be impacted? Probably, because that's the cycle of life. But it doesn't mean to say that we're all going to be on some kind of like government check while the robots run everything, and we're just hanging out.
yeah,
I don't think that's
I am a and now your listeners do from this conversation that I'm very contrarian. But uh, let me put it this way: I'm still waiting on the paperless office, right? Like people, I believe that AI is amazing and that it can automate things, but there is a human aspect, a human bias here, and there's I forget who it's written by. I wish I had looked it up before, but there is a well-known essay, and it's called something like "Reflections on the Futures of Our Children" or something like that. And this is written in like 1895, and the author is talking about industrialization and automation, and he's saying, in the future, it's going to be a really real problem that people will have way too much free time, and they won't be any work to do, and they won't have meaning in their lives, right? And that was more than 100 and some years ago, right? So there's some bias there about this idealism, about this utopian state where everything is automated. But the reality is just that work changes and we can do things more efficiently. And even though there's a lot that's bad in the world right now, over the decades, like you can look at uh, Hans Rosling's visualizations, like over the decades, life has gotten better on average and nations have gotten wealthier and the amount of suffering and the amount of hard work that we have to do has gotten to be less and less, right? But that doesn't mean that we're going to reach some state where everything is perfectly automated. I don't believe that. And I also want to know, are you going to actually send this video to Mr. Zuckerberg now? Are you going to tag him on Facebook?
Yeah, send it to him directly. I have his personal email.
We should.
Just post it on Facebook and he'll see it.
Myles, what do you think? We talked about leaders specifically, but I think just about everybody is a user of AI today, even if they're just dabbling. What question should people ask themselves about their own usage if they haven't paused to think about it yet?
Yeah, I think it's just a question you would ask yourself about any use of technology, like even your phone. It's very similar. What are you comfortable with, right? I know some people that have a dumb phone. They say, I'm not comfortable with having all this data collection and things like that. For me, the value isn't equal to my privacy, right? Or the utility that it grants. For other people, it's interesting to me because like I'm technical and, I would say 99.9% of what I use language models for is for either coding, which I do a lot less of now, and my team uses it for that, or it's around business problems or search or information synthesis, right? But for some people, like a question they ask themselves is like, hey, what's important to you and how is this tool going to make your life better? And for some people, it's really interesting to me because it's all personal things. It's all, oh, this helped me organize my recipes. This helps me, do this part of my hobby. This helps me keep my family life organized, right? But yeah, I think you have to ask yourself, and also to do that, you have to experiment a bit. You have to try different things and say, hey, is this actually useful for me? Is it easier? Am I getting value out of it, or is it not? And in some cases, maybe you're better off just, using a pen and paper. Because on the other side,
Yeah.
I should probably lead with the negative stuff first and then have the positive stuff after. But on the other side, there are these examples of people that I am concerned about who you can read about, like, and not even, I don't want to talk about the sad, tragic cases which are related to mental health. Like, that is a very real issue that is not, it's being given attention, but it is still not being given enough attention. But there are even like humorous cases of people who are not so good at self-control, I think, kind of becoming too strong of a user of AI. And you see these startup founders and they sort of start to gradually get pulled into the deep end, and you can watch their Twitter feed like slowly devolve into memes and really weird like tinfoil hat stuff. So yeah, I think the other question you should ask yourself before you start, using these types of tools is, do I have an addictive personality? And then also, for a lot of folks I know, am I okay to use it and not start personifying it or start like projecting, right? Like you need to use it objectively. It's dangerous, I think, unless you have a lot of clear-headedness to start going and using, language models for personal advice or in the place of, some people.
Because it's very validating for your perspective.
Yeah.
You can easily, you're like, you could easily go down some sad roads if that's what you're using it for. But
yeah.
So yeah, it would be good to see some kind of I'm not massive on like regulations or frameworks or whatever, but I do think people need something, like something to help with
Yeah,
decision making, like what
it's still a bit
for.
of a wild west, right? Still. And Amy,
Yeah.
if I'm going to go down a rabbit
Yes.
hole, I'm going to do it myself on Wikipedia as God intended. I don't need, I'm just going to keep clicking the different blue links. And I started reading an article about the North American economy, and when I'm done, I'm reading an article about Mongolian flatware.
Yeah. Yes, I like it. I like it.
Yeah.
Myles, where can people find you if they want to know more about you and PractiKai?
I'm very active on LinkedIn. You can find me. I'm Myles, Myles Harrison, Harrison. PractiKai is difficult to spell for some people, so you can go to prktk.ai or practikai.com, and there's 2 Ks in PractiKai.
Awesome.
Fabulous.
It's been so good to talk to you again, Myles. Thank you so much for spending your Tuesday evening with us. We'll let you get back to conferencing.
Likewise, it's been fun. Thanks so much for having me.